Be done. I'll wait for Ajay to respond back. In the meanwhile, other people are joining in, so I think we can have a discussion here. All right, Rojan, you told me that you have chosen MCR, right? I've never received any UI submissions from your end in the last week. Can you just confirm me what exactly is the status of the project? Have you started working on it? Haven't you started working on it? What exactly is the status of the project that you're doing? I hope I'm audible to everyone. All right, you'll be working on it from this week onwards. All right, nothing yet. Rojan, anything that we can see? What exactly, it's like anything that we can see, interim, in the mid, anything, so that we can just provide us necessary inputs. We can provide our necessary suggestions to the project. Nothing has got started yet, or is it in? All right, nothing. All right. All right, Ajay, just wanted to know from you, what is the status of the Incredible India application that you're thinking about? All right. All right, you'll describe that later to me, no problems. Let's wait for other attendees to join in. No problem, Ajay, I think we can have a session on that. We can have a Skype session for that, no problems. So we have to wait here for some time because only 2 attendees have just joined in. So we have to wait for other people to also join in. All right, in the meanwhile, if people are just coming late, just wanted to know any sort of questions, any sort of doubts that you people have in any of the topics that have been taught till now, you can always respond back. All right, Srinivas is back here. All right, so Srinivas has just joined in. Srinivas, can you hear me up? Can you just respond back onto the chat window if you can hear me up? We'll wait for Srinivas to respond back. All right, Rochin has asked me something. He says, what sort of job market is Android having right now, other than all the hobby applications and something? Rojan, there's a huge demand for Android application developers as well as iOS application developers on the US-based markets, right? So majority of the IT industries that we have do some work for the US-based markets. So majorly, if I say the product industries are something that are finding it tough to cope up with the mobile applications, but definitely the service industry is the one that is thriving on it, right? So there are huge opportunities that comes along with mobile application development when you are working with a service-based industry. All right, Srinivas has just logged out some time back. So that is the actual status of how the mobile market is going on, right? So the product-based companies are finding it really a little tough to cope up because products are something which might be needed, might not be needed, but the service-based industry is something which is roaring with opportunities here. Even let me tell you one more thing, Rojan, it's not something that, like, if you have built up a few applications onto the Google Play, right? For example, you have built up 10 applications and hosted them onto the Google Play. In this case, if you have got the applications running on free, right? That's correct. That's correct. I understand that. Let me tell you about this. All right. There's nothing to be disheartened about. All right. There are a lot many number of applications. There are duplicate applications as well. Like an application is already present, there are multiple copies of that application also. But still, there are a few ideas, Rojan, that still haven't been explored. All right. So you can always come up with some ideas, and then definitely it is going to work. As I said, I was just pointing out that if you have built up 10 applications, hosted them onto the Google Play. All right. In this case, what happens is that suppose you have built up 10 applications, you have all paid, put all of them as free. You generate good revenue with the terms of advertisements, right? So the more popular the application becomes, the more advertisements revenue you can generate. And I tell you what, you can earn a minimum of 15 to 20,000 just by hosting 10 applications and having them free, all right, and having the ad mob integrated. So that is another opportunity that it gives to you. So mobile marketing is something that is giving you a huge opportunity in terms of mobile application development. All right, Akshay has just joined in, and so has Srinivas. I hope Akshay and Srinivas, you both can hear me up. Can I have response back onto the chat window if Akshay and Srinivas can hear me up? Alright, Srinivas has again logged out. Don't know if it has to do with some internet connection or something. Akshay, can you just respond back onto the chat window if you can hear me up? Alright, then we'll wait for another 2 minutes and then we'll be starting up with the session, because it's like there's no point wasting time here. So we'll wait another 2 minutes and then we'll be starting up with the session. Alright, let me also brief you up about Ajay's project here. Alright, Ajay, I think we can have a small discussion here onto your project. If you feel like we can just discuss it here, the way I'm thinking about this incredible idea application of yours. So what Ajay is saying is that he has to build an application which contains various cities of India, various states of India, all right, and what all are the tourist places that we have in the various places. Is that correct, Ajay? Just correct me if I'm wrong. All right, so what I would assume, Ajay, is that you know how to work with internal and external storages. You know how to work with writing text files. Let's take it like this. So what you will be doing is, suppose you are building it up for North India, you are building it up for South India, you are building it up for East, and you are building it up for West. For example, we can just distribute the complete application in these 4 components, all right? So we have a separate file that will be holding all the data with respect to north fields, or say northern states. What all are the places to visit? All right, so let's take it like this. So we have to create a file structure which has to go something like this. All right. First of all, the state or say the place to visit, a tilde here. After the tilde, you'll be having another parameter which is going to be the image name, then a tilde operator, and then you'll be having some textual content onto it. All right, and if you want to have any other information, just let me know. Apart from these 3 information, I think everything is fine. Just let me know here, Ajay, if this is not the case. You'll have multiple copies of information like this. Similarly, you'll be having multiple copies of information like this. You'll be having multiple copies of information like this for East. And you'll also be having some multiple copies of information like this for West. Alright, so what we'll be doing is we'll be starting up. That's correct. I'll tell you. No, this will not create a database table, Akshay. It's just something that we were talking about in the last class. A text file holding a database type of content. It's something like that. Alright, so Ajay, here you have everything. Alright, you have the place name, you have the image name, and you have the textual content with every row. Alright, so you store this information as a text file. What you can also do is you can just do a flat file, include the flat files into your resources folder. If you would have seen here, you have an assets folder, right? You have an assets folder included here, and just copy it up to your application database, or say application folder from here. Or what you can also do is you can create it by doing manual text entry, or say taking the user input. You can also do that, right? So once you have done that, the best way I would assume is just copy this file from the assets to the application folder, Ajay. Right? So firstly you have to do it like this. Then what you have done is you first of all pick up you will be first of all picking up all the lines, because if you are choosing the northern states, alright, you'll have all the state data. That is what all are the places to visit in the northern state. Just let me know onto the chat window, or if you want I can unmute you up so that we can discuss a little in more detail. Just let me know what's your take. Alright, should I unmute you up? Alright. Alright, Ajay.
Yes, sir. Sir, in Incubator India, I want to show, as you told me, North India, South India, touristic places like and pilgrims.
I didn't get you, Ajay. Ajay, I just assume that you're not using a microphone.
Yeah, I have microphone. Hello.
But there's a lot of background noise that is coming up, Ajay.
I don't know.
All right.
Why.
Go ahead, Ajay. Go ahead. So what are you saying? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any idea how to store textual file. Sir, like image, how to call image in our text file.
All right. I'll tell you about this. For example, Ajay, what you're doing is you are having the textual content for example, Agra, right? Now you know which file you are going to read, right? So you can, what you can do is you can do it like this. Say image name Agra. Alright, so what you did was you picked this image name from here. Now you will find this image name in the R file. Alright, you'll have your R file or the resources file here with all these names. Right? It's like you'll be having all the image names stored inside this file, or I would say all the images of all the states, all the cities, everything that you have it in drawable folder from the very beginning.
Yeah,
alright, so you have these images here with you. What you'll be doing is you'll be first fetching up this image name, asking the image name to be picked up from the R file, and then show it onto the screen. In a way making it a little dynamic. Though it is all static, but in a way it will be working as a dynamic content. Got my point here? How are you going to read this image as a file name? You have it as a file name, you just query for the file name from the SD or from the drawable folder and just display it as an image background. And this is how you'll be doing it for everything. But remember, your choice selection will depend on what file you have to read. Alright? If you have chosen the southern states, you have to read a file which states southern states. Similarly, eastern, all the eastern states file name, and similarly the western ones.
Okay.
Right, so this is how you...
Suppose in south, someone choose south, and there is a list of south places, okay?
Okay.
And then choose one of them south places, and then display all the content of south, that place, I think.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, sir.
What you can also do is, Ajay, you can also use a view flipper here. Alright? Whatever I'll tell you about view flipper in detail a little. Just something that you have to study by your own, alright? Or you can just contact me on Skype and then we can discuss. What you'll be doing in this view flipper is, you'll be having an image,
okay.
Alright? You will be having some textual content besides the image, like this. right? So you will be having it like this. Now when you will be doing a swipe in, swipe out, left swipe, right swipe,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what will happen is this image will get changed. Similarly, the textual content will get
Text.
changed.
Yeah, yeah.
So it will give your application a good user interface. All right,
Yeah,
just
that
on
is
the
what
swipe
I
and
want.
that's correct. So that is where you can use a view flipper. All right, you can use a view flipper, or you can also do it from a normal content. I can tell you about the normal content also, but view flipper will give you some, I would say, an animation feel. All right, an animated feel. So that's what the view flipper is used for. But if you do not want an animation feel, so you can always use it using the on touch event. On the swipe left, you just redraw the components. On the swipe right, you just redraw the components. So there are various ways of achieving this. All right, so that is how you can do it up. All right, so just because mobile cash register is something that is clear to everyone. So just wanted to have and provide my inputs on Incredible India application of yours, right? And let me tell you, first of all, you just create a local application, a local database application. That is, you can have it as a text file, you can have it as a stored as a database concept. Upload it onto the Google Play, see the response. If the response looks good to you, then integrate the server component into it. So that now what you'll be doing is you won't be using this as a dummy application. You'll be using it up with the real-time data. Are you getting my point? How the marketing has to be done,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
But
it's
I'm
like,
not
first of
aware
all,
of
what's
all
that?
these things. I'm not aware of all these things you are talking about,
No,
like a
no,
service component or uploading the apps on Google Play.
no worries. I assumed that you might be having few friends who work on server scripting. You might be having few friends that work on PHP.
Yeah, yeah, I do have.
All right. So just
Yeah.
contact them and just ask them to give you a URL, and whenever you hit a URL, just make it a local machine. Yeah, I'm not saying host it somewhere. I'm saying make it a
Oh,
hosted on a local machine. Do not
okay,
buy a
okay.
public domain.
Okay, okay. My local host,
All
I
right.
got.
That's correct. Do not buy a public domain. Just use a local host and just run this application. See the response, and then if the application runs fine, then just hire or say have a public domain and just host it up there.
Okay, okay, sir.
All right. So that is how you can do about it. I hope this is clear to you. How are you going to work on it, Ajay? Any questions, any queries that you have?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Akshay has come up here. All right. Hey, I think I just missed. Are we supposed to tell you about the idea? That's correct, Ajay. Akshay, that is what we are expecting everyone to do here. I have just got few ideas here, Akshay. I have just got these many number of responses. Srinivas, I hope you can hear me up. I guess there's some internet connectivity issue at your end because you are logging in, logging off sometimes. Can you just respond back if you can hear me up? All right. All right, Srinivas, so you chose MCR as the project work for yourself, right? So have we got anything in place? Have we got something in place so that we can just see and provide the inputs? Or haven't you started working on it? Just let me know onto the chat window. All right. All right, no problems. Srinivas will be sending me by end of day today. Rojan, I also need some, I would say, some urgency here from your end also, so that I can just provide all my necessary inputs beforehand. Because if you start working on a project, you might not be having the scalability inside the project, right? So if you want my inputs inside the project, just let me have a brief about the project from the very beginning, all right? All right, Akshay says he's going to make an application for his college. What exactly is the application that you want to work on, Akshay? Can you just brief me up a little? That's correct, Rojan, because the only reason why I want you to do it is so that I can provide my inputs, and if there is anything that we can do it in an easier way, so I can just suggest that to you. All right, Ayush has just joined in here. Akshay, can you just brief me up a little onto the project? Can you please show us an example of a background activity? What is that, Srinivas? What is that, a background activity? What do you mean by that? Ayush, I hope you can hear me up. Can you just respond back onto the chat window? Alright, an activity without a user interface. Alright, I'll just show you something here. That is very fairly simple, Srinivas. That is a service. It's not an activity. It's not a background activity. It is a service actually. Alright, so let me show you one of the projects that I have done. Let me just quickly go back here. I'll show you one, right? Or if you want, we can cover an example, all right? So not a problem. All right, so here what I have done is I am actually working on a project for my office here. Inside this project, what I need is I need a sound recording. That is, I need to record a sound of the officer, whosoever is doing a chalaning application, right? So it's like an audio evidence that we create inside our application. So if you see here, what I have done is I have created a recording service. All right. So I have created a sound recording service. Akshay, I'll just get back to you once I'm finishing with this service. All right. So here, if you see, Srinivas, I have started a record sound service which extends the service component. All right. So once I have extension to the service component, I have access. All right. I have access to few of the overridden methods here. You see on bind, you see on create, you see on destroy, and you see on start. All right. So I have access to all these overridden methods, Srinivas. Whenever I say on start gets called up whenever I start the service, right? On destroy, whenever the service has to end, right? That is called up. On create, as everybody knows, whenever the service gets created. Here's the component on binder, on bind. Let me tell you about this. So the present service that I'm using in my application is the one that runs throughout the application. Like once I start the service, till my application is alive or running in the background, this service will keep on running. Just let me know if there is anything that is not clear to anyone. All right. Though we can cover an example for in the coming classes. Just wanted to give you an insight about services. All right. So what I'm doing is in the on bind, if I want to associate the service with an activity, at present it is going on in the background without having any user interface, without having anything. If I started from a single place, I can see it or say work on it in the coming activities. All right. So that is how I'm doing it in this case. But if I want to have a service bound with an activity, for example, if I say an activity is making use of the service, so the activity closes down, the service should also close down. For in such a scenario, I have to create a binding service. All right. So whenever my activity starts, I'll be doing an on bind to this particular service with my activity, so that whenever the activity gets destroyed, the service also gets destroyed. Just let me know that if this difference is clear. So there are two types of services. One is unbound services, the one that I'm using, and one is the bound services. So the bound ones are the ones that are bound with an activity. So if an activity gets destroyed, the service also gets destroyed. Akshay, Ankit, Ayush, Rojan, Srinivas. Anyone having any doubts here? Srinivas, I actually cannot show this up because this is something which I'm building for my office here. I cannot share this content with you, right? But I can show you the trigger, all right? I can show you where am I seeing the trigger here, all right? If you see here, I have a button which says image record button. All right. This image record button will make use of an intent service object. Can you see this up? And everybody just remember, why am I using the get application context? I hope everybody assumes that what is the purpose of using the get application context here? I created an intent which is going to create a service for me. All right. Once I have that service working with me, I go on to the image record click listener. I'll just go down, and you see I'm first of all just doing a check that whether my service is up or running or not. If the service is already running, right, then I do not need to start the service again, Srinivas. If my service is not running, I just call a method which says start service with the intent that I have to pass. Once I pass this up, this will go on here inside my record sound service and it will start doing its functioning. Srinivas, just let me know if anything that is not clear here. Though what I'll be doing is, I'll be covering an example in the coming class wherein I'll be playing a media player file using a service component so that it is more clear to everyone. Alright, I'll create a small example wherein I'll be playing a media file using a service or some other kind of an example. And let me also tell you about something. Whenever I talk about services, I also have to declare a service in my manifest. If you see here, I have included a service in my manifest. Can everybody check this up? In fact, I'm making use of two services in my application. One is a service that queries up the Bluetooth devices, and then the other service is the one that actually creates or runs the various sound recording services. Alright, I hope this is clear to everyone. Rojan, Ayush, Ankit, Akshay, Srinivas, anyone having any doubts understanding this, you can respond back onto the chat window. Can I have responses back onto the chat window? We'll be covering a sample for it in the coming class just to give you an insight what exactly a service is, right? Let me just switch my workspace here. Alright, Akshay, let's go back to your question, how I have to. I gave you an overview, Ankit. Alright, I'll give it to you again. Alright, we haven't done much here, Ankit. We were just discussing on the project. So I have got only few suggestions onto the projects. I haven't received yours. Which project you are going to work on? So can you just write back onto the chat window which project you will be working on? Akshay was asking me something about the project. Let's go back here. Alright, it will keep info about my college, contact, course, detail, introduction, maybe in future the registration also. Akshay, I think we had already discussed about it, but if you want I can again share it with you. Alright, so the way Ajay is working on the application for Incredible India, similar way you can work on the college application. How you are going to do this is, you have to create a text file. Alright, you have to create a text file that will have all the information about your college. For example, your college might be having a few courses running. Alright, let's take it like this. I'll take it like this. So you have courses, then what you'll be having is you'll be having few image views or say images to show for the courses, for all the types of courses. Then what you'll be doing is you'll be having the last, or I would say, details about the course. After the details about course, what you'll be having is, you'll be having, say, admission process, and finally you can also say select a method which says give me the course fee. Alright, give me the course fee, and on top of it you can also say contact or say contact details. Just let me know if there is any information that I'm missing here. Akshay, just respond back very quickly onto the chat window if there is any information that I'm missing with respect to a college application. All right. Ankit, can you also respond back onto the chat window, which is the project work that you have chosen to be done in this assignment of yours? All right. So here, what I'll be doing is, Akshay, I'll be having a courses. So I can have courses like BTech in some stream. I can have interior designing, for example. What I can have in the second field is I can have the image. So I can place all my images in my drawable folder. I can place all the images in my drawable folder. I'll show you that. Place all the course images inside the drawable folder. In this file, just store a name for the drawable folder. In this file, just store a name. So name has to be, for example, BTech image. All right. Details about the text course could be some textual content. Admission process is again some textual content. Then the course fee, you can add up the course fee here. Say per semester. Similarly, the contact details, any XYZ contact details. So you'll be having multiple rows of information for every course. Just let me know if not there is not anything that is not clear here, Akshay. You'll be having multiple rows of information in a text file. Akshay, can you quickly respond back onto the chat window? I'll wait for Akshay to respond back. We are working on a single file. We are working on a single file. We can also work on the same page, Akshay. All right, Akshay, what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you some insight into exactly how we are going to do this after the class, all right, inside on a Skype session, all right, because we should not waste much time of the other fellow candidates here, because I have already told this about this implementation. All right, Ankit, I think you all have my Skype IDs with you, all right? So I think we can have a small session after the class on Skype. All right, so anyone who's facing any problems, anything that you feel like asking me onto the projects, we can share it up or work on it onto the Skype window. All right, so let's close this up. Let's talk about what we have to discuss in the class today, right? So today we will be talking about advanced application concepts. Let's talk about it one by one. First of all, what I will be covering is I'll be covering the web interaction and the customization of widgets, all right? So we'll be interacting with the web services today in this session, and I'll tell you how you'll be parsing the data, how you'll be storing the data in terms of JSON responses and also in terms of input stream. Firstly, we'll be calling the HTTP client and HTTP response. Then we'll be working on a JSON object and get the JSON object working with the Twitter app. All right. Then we'll be working with an async task. I'll tell you how exactly an async task works. And then we'll be talking about customization of widgets with respect to, say, a list view, a grid view, and a number of objects. First of all, let me share the project plan with you again. As I have every time said to you all, each student is expected to create an Android application as project work for the course. Certificates will be provided to students only after project submission and evaluation. At the time of project submission, there is going to be a Skype interview that is going to be conducted in order to just find out that whether the person has made the project all by himself or not. The project that you will be submitting to us will be evaluated on the basis of usability, it will be evaluated on the basis of functionality and also the design, right? If there is anything, we are always there to help you onto the forum and on Skype, all right? So if you feel like asking us anything, we are always there for you. As of now, I think we are going late by a week's time here. So the project should have got started in the last week, Any doubts with this specifications should have been clarified in the last week, and I should have got the UI design submissions by this week. But since we are running late by a week, so the process completely takes a turnaround, right? So here I have to see how we can finish it up by the end of 6th week. So during the 5th week, it should have been the coding completion done. After the 6 weeks, you'll be doing 5th week, you'll be doing the supporting and testing onto the project, all right? And finally, you complete the project. Once the project gets completed by all of you and gets submitted to us, we'll be taking 3 days in order to review the project, all right? We'll be doing a project review, and thereafter 1 week in order to distribute the certificates for the various projects that you people have done. All right, so this is the complete cycle that we people follow. I hope the cycle is clear to everyone, though we are all going a week late. All right, we are all running a week late here. Just let me know, will the grade be affected by the project in a certificate? It won't be affecting the grade, Akshay, but it is going to affect your knowledge base. All right, the grades certificates will not show you that anything, but the better a project you will be doing, the better self-improvement you will be having. All right. All right. First of all, let's start with the HTTP classes now. All right. Srinivas has also just joined back. All right, Srinivas, you had logged off some time back. So today we'll be talking about how we'll be working with the web services. All right. First of all, let's talk about HTTP classes. So HTTP client objects are required whenever we try to hit a URL, right? Whenever we try to hit a web service, we have to execute the HTTP requests or the hypertext text protocols request, right? So the HTTP client objects are the ones that are required in order to execute the HTTP, right? Whatever request you need to make, we need to first of all create an HTTP client for it, then call the HTTP GET method onto the client object, which will be retrieving the information defined by the requested URI. In terms of URI, when I call anything a URI, I necessarily call it a uniform resource identifier, right? Or I would say something which is having a uniform resource identifying capabilities, right? Rojan says he has lost audio. Can everybody confirm me that? Because Rojan has lost the audio here. Can everybody just, am I audible to everyone? Can you all respond back? All right, Rojan, everybody can hear me up. Can you just respond back? All right, I'll wait for Rojan to respond back. All right, no problems. I hope now you can hear me up, Rojan. All right. So as I was telling you, whenever we have to create an HTTP request, we'll be making use of an HTTP client. All right. What my HTTP client will be doing is it will request, or say it will execute an HTTP GET request for me and give me the response in an object. All right. So whatever response I have to store, I'll be storing it as an HTTP response object. So here I have created an example wherein what I'm going to do is I'm going to read all the HTML content from my website edureka.is. All right. Just remember, I'm reading the HTML content from my Edureka website. So how am I going to do that? I'll be first of all creating an HTTP client, which is going to be a default HTTP client that is running on the machine. All right. Get a uniform resource identifier, give it the URL of my website. Then I'll be doing an HTTP GET request in order to execute the request to give me the data. Once I have the data here, I'll just have it in the response object, which I'll be just using in order to display the data onto the URL. I'll just show you that. So here I have created the HTTP sample here. Inside my HTTP sample, I'll show you what I have got in the UI. If you all see here on this UI, what I have done is I have added up a text view. This text view is holding text loading data. And what I have also done is I have placed this text view inside a scroll view. Can everybody check this up? Just let me know on the chat window. Alright, I have placed my text view inside a scroll view. If I go on to sample here, I take the HTTP text view here. Inside that, I'm going on to the onCreate, set the content view, and then I say HTTP text view bound from the XML. Now I have created a method which says get data. Alright, so my get data method makes use of an async task. Let me tell you about this also. How many of you have seen the Android or say ANR requests onto the Windows? The Android not responding. Do you want to exit or force close this application? Do you want to wait or force close this application? How many of you have seen that? Can anybody think about when is it gonna happen? It is a kind of a crash in the application. Akshay. That's correct. Not necessarily, Rojan. The exception might not be there. I'll tell you what exactly is the process, right? So that's what I just wanted you to have some references to it, so that when I'll be explaining you, you all will be understanding this concept. All right. So any Android application runs on a single threaded environment pattern, wherein it is always the UI thread that does the work for me. Just let me know if there is anything that is not clear when I talk about UI thread. I'll repeat it for you. Every Android application runs on a single threaded environment, wherein the single thread that I have on the Android application is the UI thread. Just let me know. Understood, not understood. Should I repeat? Should I not? So since I'm having a UI thread as a single standalone thread, UI thread here is the activity in context. You can say like that, Rojan, you can say like that. But if I say, even if I have multiple activities in context, all right, even if I say I have multiple activities in context, then also there is going to be only a single UI thread available. I hope now you understand the difference. So it's not something that is bound to the activity. It is something that is bound with the screen, or say, I would say more specifically, I'll say it, call it the application. Now I am having a UI thread, and what I'm doing is I'm hitting an HTTP request. Whenever I do hit an HTTP request, I'm necessarily querying up my cloud to give me the data. All right. So what I did was I started the HTTP request, and this HTTP request of mine might take a few minutes to load the data, or say give me the data. Just correct me if I'm wrong here, everyone. Anyone who says that this is not right here, I'll be getting the response instantaneously. I do not have to wait for the response. Now let's talk about it like this. I started my HTTP request on my UI thread, so my thread got blocked. As I said, my thread got blocked because I'm running on a single threaded environment. My UI thread got blocked. I cannot take any actions onto the UI, right? And it is being hitting the content URI, right? It's being hitting the URI, and it takes you, I'll show you, it takes you around say 5 seconds in order to get the data. This also depends on the size of the data, to be precise, but I'm just taking as an instance a 5-second delay in order to get the data. So now the UI gets blocked, The data is in process and it has to be returned back. In the meanwhile, user tries to play around with the application, like he wants to click some buttons, he wants to do something with the application. Then in this case, what it will give me is, it will give me an Android not responding messages, wherein it says, do you want to stop this application or do you want to force close? Wait for this application to respond or do you want to force close? I hope everybody would have found this up. Now, I have to wait for the application to respond back, right? Why should I be doing it like this? Then comes a process, all right? Instead of blocking the UI thread in order for me to execute these operations, what I'll be doing is, I'll be separately calling an async request. Can anybody tell me about an async request? Whatever you can feel or think about an async request. Anyone? Rojan, will you try? Srinivas, anyone who feels like trying here? I need responses back onto the chat window. Whatever you can think in terms of async task, async request. That's correct, Akshay. It can run in the background. It is like a call made without waiting for a response. That's very correct. That's very correct, Rojan. That's correct. So what I'm necessarily doing is, I'm saying starting an async process wherein I'm actually letting the async task handle the data, right? If the data comes back to me, it is fine. I can request I can resume my process. If it does not, I'm still not blocking the UI thread. Any person having any doubts understanding this? I'm still not blocking the UI thread if I'm trying to execute an async request. So what I'll be doing is, in this async task, I'll be saying, call the HTTP request. I say, in this async task, I say, call the HTTP request, and if it works fine, then I can load the data. I can load the data if it works fine. If it does not, I do not do any action. Right? But in this case, I'm not blocking the UI thread. And let me also tell you something. Post API level 4.0, what has happened is, you cannot do any operation onto the UI thread. You cannot do any network operation onto the UI thread. So it was all being done pre-API level 4.0. Now in post API level 4.0, it will just give you an exception which says network on main thread. Either you have to spawn a new thread using a new thread and giving it a runnable. Otherwise, it will give you an exception which says network on main thread. So no force closes, no ANRs in this case. Just a simple exception that you have placed your network on the main thread, crash the application. Post API level 4.0. So I hope everybody understands, whenever I'm doing a network operation, I have to depend on some other thread in order to do that. If not, then I have to create an async task. Got it? Just let me know, because this is very important to understand. While in networking operations, we have to make sure that the thread does not get blocked. I hope everybody might be understanding what kind of problems we can come up with when we talk about multi-threading environment. Should I assume that this is clear to everyone? Just let me know onto the chat window very quick. Alright, so let's close this up. So here what I'm doing is, alright, Ajay says little bit, do not worry on this part, Ajay. If you have any slightest of doubt, just let me know onto the chat window. Alright, I'm always here to help you out. Any slightest of doubt. Here what I have done is, I have created an inner class, and in this inner class I'm extending the async task. So this is an async task that gives me 3 overridden methods. Alright, one is pre-execute, then I have the do in background, then I have the third method which says on post execute. Alright, so this gives me overriding of 3 methods. If you see, it is also taking 3 input parameters. Alright, so let's talk about first of all the parameter list to the async task. Let me show you that. See the first parameter here. What does it signify? I'll just show it to you. That's correct, Akshay. We are fetching data from the cloud. In a way, we are hitting the HTTP request and getting all the HTML content. What does the first parameter signify here? Anyone? Params, the type of parameter sent to the task upon execution. Anyone who can think about it? Has it got to be the URL or something else? I think I have to place my chat window up so that I can also see the chats here, and then I'll be asking you a few questions. Alright, now come back with the responses. What is the params here? I hope everybody is familiar here. Params, the type of parameters sent to the task upon execution. Let me tell you about this. I'm having a URL and I'm sending a URL to be fetching me the data. So what is this task going to be? What is this parameter going to be? It is going to be the URL, correct? It is going to be the URL. Now let's talk about something. What is the type of URL that I'll be passing on to it? A URL will be having what type of data content? That's correct. Ajay says string. So here the first parameter that I'm passing on to the async task is the string type parameter. Alright? Just see how it has to be going on. Alright? Then the second parameter is the progress. So the type of progress units published during the background computation. For example, I'm doing a network download. Alright? And I need to check how much % of the data has got downloaded. Like 10%, 20%, 30%, so on and so forth. Like give me the progress of the data that as soon as it is getting downloaded. So what is going to be the parameter for this kind of an operation, wherein I'll be getting something in numeric? Anyone? Where I have something in numeric. Alright, so it has to be an int. Now let's talk about the third parameter, the result. The type of result of the background computation. That's correct. That's correct, Srinivas. A 0 to 100 parameter. Then the third parameter is the result. That is the type of result of the background computation. So what I'm doing is I'm reading up an HTML content. So what I'm necessarily doing here is I'm reading up the HTML content, storing them up as a string and returning back. So that is why my third parameter is a string here. But if I talk about other things, like suppose I'm reading up JSON array, right? So I might be having the third parameter as JSON array. If I'm reading up an array list of strings, so my third parameter could be an array list of strings. So the 3 parameters that I have inside an async task are the ones that are user driven. That is, whatever kind of response, whatever kind of input I have to retrieve, that is what is defining the parameter list here. Anybody having any doubts in understanding these parameter lists can respond back onto the chat window. I'll wait for everybody to respond back. Let's move ahead then. So here I have first of all the methods do in background. We won't cover this method presently. Then we have the progress update. Then we have the post execute. But before everything, we also have a method which says pre-execute. Alright, so we sometimes also have a method which says on pre-execute. I have just placed it wrong place here. And you see another one. Alright, so on pre-execute. I'll just use my debugging here in order to show you, alright, how exactly is the series of steps going on. So I say create an async task. OBJ is the class for the async task. I say obj is the object, and I say obj.execute edureka.in. Which will be the parameter that receives this animation? Anyone? First, second, third parameter. Quick, very quick. Alright, it is going to be the first parameter, right? So I say, here what I'm doing, I'm reading the response from what parameter? Or say the URL from what parameter in the do in background. Alright, so that is how I'm doing it up. So I say inside do in background, what I'm doing is I'm calling up a buffered reader object, calling up a string object. Create an HTTP client, which is going to be the default HTTP client that is running on the machine. Alright. Create a URI object and give it the URL for the URI object. Do an HTTP GET execution onto the URI. Once I have the GET execution done, I'll be getting a response. Alright. Whenever I call the client.execute GET method, I'll be getting a response out of it. So I have the response. Now I convert this response into an input stream. See how am I doing it? First of all, I get the entity from the response. What is the type of response, right? Then I get the get content. So what will get content return me? Just see. What is get content returning me here? It is returning me an input stream, and that is what I need here. All right. It is returning me an input stream object. So that is what I need whenever I have to read back information from it. Then what I'm doing is I'm casting this object of input stream to a buffered reader. I'm placing it inside a buffered reader. Once I have the buffered reader with me, I create a string buffer object, initialize it with a blank string, create a line parameter, and a new line I have to do using a line separator, that is a /n. So I say while my line, alright, while I'm reading from the line here, and I say is read line is not equal to null. That is whether my reader has got something in order for me to read from the line object. Right? I do a append here onto the string buffer. I'm just doing an append onto the string buffer, so I'm just reading it line by line. Finally, when I'm done, I do a reader.close and I store the data that I have in my string buffer to a string object and return this object from here. I'll let you all look into this example code. What am I doing here in this side, the try catch. And if you have any questions, any queries, you can respond back onto the chat window. I'll give you all, take your complete 2-3 minutes, take the complete time in order to understand this. Alright? And if you have any questions, just respond back onto the chat window. I hope this is clear to everyone. Everybody, if you do not have any questions, let me tell you, I'll be asking questions from you. Alright, I'll be asking questions. So just remember, if you're not asking me anything, I'll be asking you something. See this particular example code and let me know if there is any sort of doubt that you people have. I'll wait for you all to respond back with your questions, or if you're done with a done onto the chat window. Alright, is this to retrieve the complete HTML as a response in a byte stream? It is I would take it like as an input stream, Trojan. I'm taking the response as an input stream and then reading it line by line. Alright, so it is majorly working on the byte codes only, but doing it as a stream, input stream, not a byte stream. The object is different here. Alright, what is it in line 59? Alright, what I'm doing here is I'm actually executing the get method call onto the URL Akshay. I'm executing the get method call in order to retrieve back some data from the client. Let me know if this is clear, Akshay. where these store data. Ajay says where these store data. Ajay, if you see, what am I doing is I'm reading it as a stream, then I'm reading it line by line from the reader object. What is my reader object? It is a buffered input stream reader. Alright, reading it line by line, finally adding it up to a string buffer and giving the string buffer to the string object. Any person having any doubts here? Can I extract some info from buffer? What kind of info do you want to extract here, Ajay? This string buffer object will be containing all the HTML data. What do you mean? Akshay, it's like I have got the data stored in the object till now. Just this much. I've just done this much. Stored the object into a string object. Stored the data inside a string object. Ajay, I'm still waiting for your query here. What kind of data do you want to extract here? In case of PNR status, as I said, Ajay, if you are reading the HTML data, alright, then you have to parse the HTML data in order to pick up specific information about your PNR request. Are you getting my point here? Then you have to parse the complete data and get the status. Suppose you might be having the PNR status encascaded into two tags which say opening HTML for PNR, closing HTML for PNR. You have to find out those specific portions inside the HTML and get the data in between. Alright, Akshay says, can the image and video also be stored in data objects? For that, Akshay will be needing byte objects, byte array as the objects for storing that data. Because whenever we'll be retrieving images, whenever we'll be retrieving videos, alright, then we'll be getting the byte array of the videos and the images. Alright, or say when I have a path to the image file. So if I say I hit the URL, get the image file downloaded, I get this downloaded as a byte array. Alright, so that is how I work on it. Just let me know if this is not clear here. Akshay, just let me know on the chat window if anything is unclear here. Alright, so finally what I have done is I have returned the data, but I haven't gone into the post execute. Just see what am I doing in the post execute. On the on post execute, I'm saying text view HTTP dot set text with the data that I have just returned in the string object. Alright, then I also have the on progress update. So the on progress update will be showing me the update of the progress getting done. Alright, so we cannot run the video on our application. It will have to be downloaded. Akshay, there are two ways to it. If you want to query up all the videos that you have on your device, then we have the access to the content providers for it. Okay, then we can make use of the content providers in order to do that. But if you do not have any videos inside the device, then you have to download them. Alright, so if I was to extract weather info from weather.com, I would do this process to parse and extract the data required. That's correct, Trojan. If you're using the HTML data, right, then this case has to be done. But whenever you hit the URL, right, how we do it is we hit the URL and we get the kind of data that we want to parse. For example, if we have in-store servers or cloud information, right, if we have in-store cloud information, what we do is we ask them to give us some JSON objects so that we can just parse or say use the JSON objects instead of parsing the complete HTML. Alright, purpose of post execute and what about the data which is returned? Alright, purpose of post execute is that do in background will do the functioning for the application in the background. Whatever data computation needs to be done or download needs to be done will be taken care of in the do in background. But when I have to reflect something onto the user interface, Ajay, then I'll be using the on post execute. Alright, so that is how it has to work. Alright, what will system out.println will do here? If suppose you are using the downloader, I'll just comment this up, Srinivas. I'll show you. When I'm using the downloader, I need to show the progress of the download. So I'll be using this on progress update and update my progress bar on the basis of the integer values that are being returned here. Alright, so that is something that I'll keep as an assignment for everyone to work on the on progress update method. I hope this is clear to everyone. Any person having any doubts in understanding this example, then I'll be running it up and doing a debug for you. Srinivas, just let me know if there is any sort of still, do you want to ask anything about it? Alright, so let's do a debug here. Let's put up a few debug points. And here, right? Alright, let's start this up then. Alright, so here I go on and it gives me the complete HTML data. Can you all check this out? So if you want to place or get specific information from this HTML data, you have to parse this HTML data. But if you are having your own cloud-based web services, then you just need to ask them to give you the response in say JSON or say in say SOAP responses or anything. Then you can just use them up as a response object. Now I was going to debug this up for everyone to show how exactly this functioning works out. So I go into the debug straight away. First of all, I get the initialization of the text view. I do an F8 here. And you see, I go into the pre-execute. The very first method that gets called is the pre-execute method. I do another F8 here. Where am I taken now? I'm taken into the do in background method. Alright. So then from the pre-execute, what happens is I go into the do in background. I do an F8 here. And it is being reading the data. And I finally go into the on post execute. And you can see that. Right. So pre-execute, do in background, and post execute are the three methods that get called up here. And you can see the complete data being rendered with the help of our text view. Any person having any understanding issues, any sort of doubts, any sort of queries, I'll wait for here another 5 minutes here. If you have anything to ask, you can respond back onto the chat window. Anything that you feel like asking. I do not want to take it really fast today because I understand that we are going to cover a few topics. Alright, why wasn't the on progress not called? Here you see, I have to call another value here inside this particular parameter which says publish progress in order to show the progress update. Are you getting my point here, Rojan? I have to call the publish progress method inside my do in background so that on progress update gets called up repeatedly. Right, so publish progress majorly works with progress dialog. Alright, so I can just give it the value, whatever value I have to provide here. I can just provide the value and I can just publish the progress here. Right, so that is how I can do this up. The reason why I have not included this in my sample is I want you all to work on it. This is fairly simple. No, nothing fancy about it. Just call the publish progress from the do in background and you can just have the method called on progress update here. Any other questions from anyone? Akshay, Ankit, Ayush, Rojan, Srinivas, Ajay, anyone having any other doubts? Should I assume that everything is clear, or should I assume that this is getting complex for everyone to understand? This will return the HTML data. That's correct, Ajay. It will be returning the HTML data. All right. Ajay says it's not easy to understand at all. All right, Ajay, let me tell you about this. Once you start programming, once you start practicing this up, all right, it is going to be a far more easy than you're finding it now. Akshay, I'm reading up the HTML data. I'll show you the JSON array or say parsing the JSON data in some time. But at present, I'm just reading up the HTML data. So that's what is being shown here. So Ajay, do I have the confidence that it is going to be easier in the coming weeks for you? Understanding such complex pieces of code? All right. Akshay, I hope now you understand why are we showing the HTML data here? Because I'm not returning the JSON array here. I'll show you another example wherein I'll be returning a JSON array. Let's go ahead then. That's correct. I'll show you that. So here I have created an HTTP client. What my HTTP client will do for me, it will execute a request for me. All right. So I have the URI which executes on the get method, requests the get method and executes the request. Whatever response I have to save it up into the HTTP response object. Here you have the complete. All right, I'm sorry about this. The microphone somehow got muted up. All right, I hope everybody can hear me up now. All right, Srinivas, I was telling you about async tasks here. All right, so the async task is the class that encapsulates the creation of threads and the handlers. So threads and handlers are majorly the ones that take care of the multi-threading environment that we have in Android application development. The async task is started via the execute method. So if you have to start the async task at any point of time, all right, it has to work with the call to the execute method. If you would see here, what am I doing to the obj object? Can you check this out? I'm first of all calling the execute using the object of the async task, right? So how does the async task execute method works? It will first go on and call the pre-execute, then it will call in the do in background, and it will finally call the on post execute method out of the UI. First step, do in background. Second step, on post execute. About do in background, so it contains the coding instructions which would be performed in a background thread. Anything that gets performed in the background will be done with the help of this method. Then we have the on post execute method. So the on post execute method is called by the framework. Just remember, it's automatically called up by the framework once the do in background method finishes, in order to show whatever has been resulted out of the operation. The parameter list. Params is the ones that holds the type of the parameters sent to the task upon execution. Majorly it is always the URL. All right. Then we have the progress. So the type of the progress units published during the background computation. So whatever computation is going on, like how much data got downloaded, so that is all that is handled by this object. Similarly, the result, so the type of result of the background computation is being returned by this object. An example of it. Now we'll be covering up the JSON array. Alright. So let me tell you about JSON. Let me first show you how exactly a JSON array looks like. Has anybody worked on JSON till now? The JavaScript object notations? Alright, nobody has worked on it? Strange. Alright, let me tell you, these are very fast components. These are very fast components when we try to get some data from the internet, right? It is just something which gives you data like in an instant. And the reason why it is so fast is because it manages a key value mapping. So here is something that I have as an access of the BlackBerry sample data. Can everybody see this up? What can one make out of it? So this is the complete data that I have here shown is actually a JSON array. Alright, that's correct. It is a structured data set, Srinivas. It is a structured data set. So how exactly a JSON array works is whatever objects that you have in an array are represented by curly braces. A single object in a JSON array, if you see here, is represented by curly braces. Multiple objects inside the JSON array are represented by square braces. So whenever you have to parse the data, you have to first check what exactly is the structure of the data that is being used, and then you will be creating your own parsers accordingly. But in parsing the JSON, you do not do nothing, you do not do much fancy things here. Alright? In order to parse the JSON array, you need to know the key names, which key name you want to parse, and it will automatically show you the data. Let me show you that. So this is the data that I have from a very sample URL from the BlackBerry documents, alright, which will give me a sample JSON object. If you see, I have vehicle type, I have vehicle color, I have fuel. Similarly, I have vehicle type, grader, vehicle color, fuel, and all kinds of stuff from this JSON array. Let me show you an example for this. Before we take an example, let's first of all discuss what exactly is the JSON or say JavaScript object notations. So the JSON is a JavaScript object notation. It is a data exchange format which is very condensed. The reason why it is very condensed is because it contains the key value mapping. JSONs are the ones that are based on key value pairs. So the key is a string and the value can be a number. It can be a number, it can be a string, it can be a boolean, or it can be a complete object. Alright? Against a key, you can also store the complete object. The syntax, data is in the name value pairs. The data is getting separated by the commas. So the curly braces are the ones that hold the object, while the square braces are the ones that hold the array. Alright? You can see that a JSON object pairing here. Object is name, key name is name, and value is Edureka. Key name is course, value is Edureka. Similarly, I have an array like company, which is holding key name Edureka, name Edureka, course Android, name Edureka, course iOS, and something like this. Alright, so that is how it has to work up. Now let's see an example here. Though we were using a Twitter feed application, alright, but now Twitter has removed that API from it, alright, and that's where we will be working on a different API, which is the BlackBerry document that we have for JSON array. Alright, earlier Twitter used to provide us with some data from the Twitter APIs, which we were able to hold the data with. Alright, it used to show us all the tweets that come up, alright, with any particular username, but now they have removed those APIs from it. So we'll be covering a simple example how we'll be reading data from a JSON object. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking here a 10 minutes break here so that we are all fresh, so that we can just see how the JSON array has to be passed. Alright, so let's go on for a 10 minutes break, have your breakfast, and then come back after 10 minutes so that we can just be fresh minded for understanding the JSON concepts. Alright, so here we take a 10 minutes break. I hope this is fine with everyone. Alright. Alright, I'm back here. I hope everybody is back here with me. Can you all respond back onto the chat window if everyone is back here with me? Alright, Rojan is back here. Ajay, Akshay still seem unattentive here. Akshay, can you also respond back onto the chat window? Alright. So let's start with a few examples wherein we'll be seeing a Twitter or I would say a JSON array in place. Alright. So I've shown you the example which we are going to read from this example that we are covering up. Alright. So we'll be reading up vehicle type, vehicle color, fuel, etc. from this particular response that we are seeing as JSON array. Right. So here I have the main activity. Inside the main activity I have created a URL. After the URL I have here I have created few tags. Tags are necessarily the key names that I'm getting from this URL. I'll just show it again, open it again for you all so that we can make some references out of it. So here are the tag names, the vehicle type, vehicle color, fuel, and then what I have here is the thread type. So here I have the thread type, alright. So I'm just not working on the complex objects because complex objects again have to be passed on separately. So I say just give me the simple objects from this particular list of objects. So here I'm creating a hash map of array list, alright, array list of hash maps containing string and string type of objects. So I call this a JSON list of array list. Create a list view to show you what I have in my content view. I have just a smear list view here, nothing fancy. I'm just dragging and dropping a list view onto my view. I set the content view, and what am I doing here? Just extending or executing the progress task. So I have created an inline progress task which extends the async task. Right? So it returns me a string. It is taking input as a string. Second parameter is void, so I am not displaying the progress here. Third parameter is Boolean. Boolean will tell me whether I have got the download done or not, something like that. Created a dialog box. Reference the context and the dialog with this particular activity. Alright. So I say context equal to activity. So what is the activity that I'm having? I'm having the list activity as the activity here. Alright. So I go on inside the pre-execute. What am I saying? I say progress.start. So whatever dialog box I have, it will start the progress and then it will show up on the screen. On post execute, let's not talk about it first. Let's talk about do in background. So I create a JSON parser here. Just see, I have created a class here, JSON parser class. Inside this class, I have three objects, right? I have three objects here, input string, JSON array, and the string JSON object. Here I have a method which says get JSON from URL, which is being called up from my object, from my doing background here. You see here, I'm calling a get JSON from URL object. Can you see this up? Just respond back onto the chat window if everybody can see this method up. So here I go on and I say get me the JSON from the URL after hitting it up. I say string builder, again the same common exercise. Client, get client, I get the response, check the status that whether this particular web service is up or down. If the status equal to 200, that means the web service is up. Apart from any other status apart from 200, I mean that the web service is down. Any person having any doubts in understanding these three lines of code, you all can respond back onto the chat window. I'll wait for everybody to respond back. Ajay, this is going to be a lot complex as it goes on. Alright, so just pay a lot more attention, right? So here I check for the status code. if my stateless code equal to 200, that means my URL is up. What am I going to do? First of all, get the entity, get the input stream from the entity. All right, similar manner, similar concepts that I used in my last example. Create a buffered reader object, pass on the input stream content writer to it, read it line by line, read it line by line, append it to a builder object, and finally get a JSON array after converting the builder to string. Can everybody check this up? The only difference. Can everybody check this up? Roshan, you haven't responded back. Any doubts, any queries you have? So what is it going to give me? This particular new JSON array input argument as a string, what is it going to give me? Question for everyone. I hope this is very clear to everyone. That's correct. Array of objects. But what kind of objects? Can you see? What is my JSON array having here? It is an array of JSON objects. Any person having any doubts? Srinivas, Ajay, Akshay, Ankit, anyone having any doubts here? Let's move up. So I called up this method from my object and it returned me an array of JSON objects. Is that correct? So what am I having? I'm having an array of JSON objects here with me. What I'm doing now, iterating through the object list, I say while I have JSON.len, that is all the array objects, I'm just iterating them one by one. I create a new JSON object using the get property of the I property. Get the string type. Can you see this up? I'm holding a single JSON array object in my object C, and I'm picking up values using the get string method. So what I'm doing here, I'm asking them to give me the values that are present on various key names. Is that correct? Now what I'm doing is, after reading back values from those various key names, I'm creating a hash map, right? I'm adding this up, map.put the key name, the key value, the key name, the key value, the key name, the key value, the key name, the key value. Any doubts, any queries? And then finally adding this hash map object to an array list of hash map objects. Is everybody getting what is being done here? Let me tell you, this is something which everybody has to understand very clearly. If you want time, I can give you time in understanding this. Alright? But this is very important to understand because majority of the Android applications are client-server based architecture models. So the server interaction, or say communicating with the web services, is something that everybody has to understand very clearly. Akshay, Ajay, Ankit, Rojan, Srinivas. Any sort of doubt, any sort of questions, any sort of things that you want to ask which you think, alright, is not being understood clearly, or what you think should be done. I understand, Akshay, it is a little heavy onto the learners, but let me tell you, this is something that is being used the most while we create mobile apps. Alright, so that is what my focus is, that everybody should understand these concepts very clearly. Alright, I'll explain it to you again, Ankit. So what I'm doing here is, first of all, I'm having a list activity. Alright, I'm having an activity of list view. Now what I'm doing is, I'm extending an async task inside a progress task class, an inner class that I have created here. So what my air class is going to do is it will do the async task execution for me. Created a dialog box for showing the progress, that is it's like started or not started yet. Gave it or initialized the activity and the context of the progress dialog. On the pre-execute, I say just set the message progress start and show the dialog box. On the on post execute, we'll not talk about it yet. All right, let's go into the do in background. All right, so Rochan, what have you worked with? Have you worked with the normal, say, SOAP web services, or have they been the REST web services? All right, so you have worked with SOAP. So you might have included the KSOAP libraries inside your applications and just ask the KSOAP libraries to give you the packet, the SOAP object and everything. Is that correct? Get the envelope, give me the response from the envelope and that kind of stuff. All right, good Rojan, if you have tried that, because majorly it's like we use SOAP only in that case whenever we have to create web services very quickly, right? Other than that, if we have time for the web services creation, we prefer SOAP. We prefer JSON responses to it, because .NET web services are very quick to be generated, right? So if we have that kind of a scenario, then only we use SOAP. Other than that, we always prefer XML or say the JSON responses. Right? So here I say, I created a JSON parser here. All right, my doubt here is if the BlackBerry URL is a service. It is in a way a service. It is a service that returns me JSON object. If I want, I can also have the XML data here. Let me try out, because I haven't seen this particular thing. All right, not returning me the XML here. But there are few web services, Rojan, that return both. Say they return the XML as well, they return the JSON objects as well, right? So that is something that we have to see. Whichever we feel like working with, we work with that particular response. It is actually a service. It is actually a service, Rojan. The BlackBerry one that we have is actually a service. All right, let's go back to Ankit's query here. So Ankit, here I'm creating a JSON parser object, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a JSON parser class here. If you see, I'm having 3 static objects. One is the input stream. Then I'm having a JSON array of objects. Then I'm having a single JSON object, right? Here I have created a method get JSON from URL. So I'll be passing or say calling this method from my main activity, passing in a URL to this method. What am I doing here is creating a string builder object, default HTTP client, HTTP get the response. This is almost exactly the same that I did for reading the HTML data. Here what I'm just doing is I'm just doing a check whether my web service is up or down. I'm just doing this check. All right, so I check with that whether my status is up or down. So if my status equal to 200, that means my web service is up. So I read the entity first of all, then I read the content from the entity using the input stream. Again, do the same mechanism, read everything line by line and append it to a string buffer. Finally, adding up a JSON array. After creating everything from the string buffer, I return a JSON array to the JSON array of objects. All right, Ankit has just gone offline. I just do not know what is the problem here. All right, so it was specific to Ankit. So that is why I was explaining it to again. Let's wait for him to come back. All right. All right, Ankit, I think you had logged off some time back. Ankit, if you can hear me up, just respond back onto the chat window because I'm explaining it specifically for you. I hope, Ankit, you can hear me up. Alright, Ankit seems to be not responding here, some internet connectivity issues. So I hope this is clear to everyone. Tell the do in background, I hope this is clear to everyone, right? Now let's talk about on post execute. So what am I doing? If dialog is showing, alright, what is the status line? Alright, on 37, as I said, Srinivas, I'm actually just checking up. Are you talking about this status line? I'm just checking up, Srinivas, whether my web service is up or down. That is, if it is working or not. That kind of a check that I'm doing. No, in terms of HTTP, let me just check. That's correct. Whether my HTTP is up or down, Srinivas, here see, I'm executing the get method on the client, alright, and I get the response. From the response, I'm just checking whether my web service, alright, the data service that's given to me is up or down. That is what the check here is. Alright. So here I go on to the main activity. Now I'm using the list adapter here, right? So I'm having the list adapter, passing in the context, object list, layout, and here you see I'm passing in an array, alright? I'm passing in an array of objects that have been read with the tag name, color, fuel, tag, thread. And what am I doing here is integer array which holds the vehicle type, vehicle color, fuel, and thread type. Let me show you this by running it. So that it's more clear how am I showing up the list adapter. You see data download in progress, and you can see that the name, the color, and everything shown up here inside this window. If you see here, I'm having a text view which is being populated from this window. You see here, I'm saying give me the objects from the JSON list which contains tag, vehicle type, vehicle color, fuel, and thread. And what am I using for the resource allocation for this is resources that I have provided in the vehicle type, vehicle color, fuel, and thread type, which is my list item.xml. If you see here, this is my list item.xml, which is being filled up from whatever data is being fetched up from the URL. Finally, set this up to the adapter and get the list view for the single click item. Any person having any doubts, any questions, any queries, you all can respond back onto the chat window. I'll wait for everybody to respond back. Srinivas says it's good for him. Rojan, Ankit, Akshay, Ajay. Rojan says it's clear to him as well. Ajay, I need responses from you. Akshay, Ankit. Alright, so if there is any sort of understanding issues, let me tell you about this. The same example code will be shared with everyone. Alright, so if anybody is not able to understand what is being happening here, I would request you all to take a look at the example code, and if you have any questions, alright, you all have access to my Skype accounts, alright, so then you can just contact me on Skype. Any sort of questions that you people have. Alright. So now let's talk about customization. Alright, let's talk about how we'll be doing the customization of widgets whenever we'll be working with Android applications. So if you would have seen fancy grid views, fancy list views, how many of you have seen that inside the applications? No, Rojan, actually that is something that I'm not aware about it. All right. I have never worked on server side. All right. I have just been working on the devices or the client sides. All right. So it's something that even if you can tell me about this, I'll be very glad to know about it. All right. So let's start with the customization. First of all, let's start with customization of buttons. All right. So if I talk about customization of buttons, what I mean is that I can exactly control how the controls are styled using a theme. Everybody knows about it. All right. That the theme that you apply to the entire application, everybody knows about it. The holo black light theme that we always use whenever we create a new application. Just let me know about it. Now, if you want to truly redefine the appearance of your button, you can specify a custom background. How many of you have seen something like this happening? When you click on the button changes its color. When you click on it back, it again moves back to the same color. Let me show you an example here. When I click here, it changes to something else. If I click back, it changes to something else. When I click, it changes to something else. When I click back, it changes to something else. So this is something that has not to be handled using programmatically. That is, you do not need to write any code for it, right? Where you check that if state is equal to this, then do the state. If state is equal to this, then do the state. That is not needed here. How can you take care of it is something which is very simple. Let me show you that. So I have created a custom button class. If you say, take a look at my main.xml file, what are you seeing here as a button background? Can everybody check this up? I'm actually referencing a file here instead of anything else. Instead of using an image view for the background, I'm referencing a file. Can everybody see this up? What is my file containing here? Can you see this up? What is my file containing? It is containing an opening and closing selector tags. It is containing an opening and closing selector tags. Inside the opening and closing selector tags, what I'm doing is I'm associating two items. All right, I'm associating two items wherein what I'm saying is give it the drawable of custom button 2. Let me show you what this custom button 2 is. This is the button. I say give it the drawable That's correct. It does not change the file, Ajay. It actually changes the image that is associated in the file. If you see, my drawable custom button 2 is supposed to be used whenever my state pressed equal to true. Just let me know if this is not clear to anyone. Whenever my state pressed equal to true, I have to use this button. Can I have responses back? All right. And similarly, if my state is default, that is not the one that is being depicted here, which button to use? Use this button. Can I have responses back onto the chat window very quick? Understood? Doubt? What sort of doubt? Now let's go back to custom button here. And if you see here, how am I going to create this class? Anyone? Let's go to resources. Let's go to a drawable folder. Go to new. Android XML file. Choose a selector file from here. Alright, that's correct. That's correct, Akshay. You can choose any image, different sort of image depicting different actions. Like when you press, show a different image. When you do not press, show a different image. You click on the selector file here, give it a name and press next. Once you press next, you'll be having something like this. Something like this created, right? Then you can associate your necessary item elements under it, and whichever state you feel like putting here, you can put that state and you can put or attach an image with that particular state. Once this selector file is created, once the selector file is done, go on to main.xml and just set this as a background to the button file. Any person having any doubts, any questions, any queries understanding this? So I hope that this selector button will be the one that majority of the people will use in their project works. Is that correct? Sure, I'll tell you again. How we will be creating a file is something. I go on to drawable, I go on to new, I go on to new Android XML file, I choose an option of selector file, I give it a name, test selector. Alright. Yes, I'll override this up. So I get the test selector file. As you see, now I can attach item elements to it. Alright. I can attach item elements to it and give it the various drawables on the basis of the various states of the button. Any person having any doubts, any questions, any queries here? Akshay, I hope your query got resolved now. How to go there? That's correct. These images should be placed in the drawable folders, Ajay. So this is how we can truly redefine the button, alright? But we have also few elements like the ones of the grid views, the ones of the list views, alright? So let's talk about them as well. So first of all, we'll be talking about customization of a grid view, alright? So whenever we use a list view, whenever we use a grid view, what do we use as a data set? Question for everyone, what do we use as a data set? When we are working with a grid view or a list view? That's correct. Srinivas, it is a string array, but what we set as an adapter is...
Welcome to GoToWebinar, webinars made easy.
No, that's not needed, Akshay. In this case, it is not needed because I'm creating a drawable file. I'm not creating a song file. So that is why draw is not needed in this case. I hope this is clear to you. Can you please respond back onto the chat window, Akshay, if this is clear so that I can just understand? That's correct. You can just directly drag an image, or I would say you can just place all the images into the drawable HTTPI folder and then refer to them directly. Like this file contains, alright. You see here, this file contains two drawables. Refer to those drawables from their appropriate place. I hope this is clear to you now, Akshay. Alright, let's move ahead then. Let's talk about customization of a grid view. So as I said, an adapter is used to bind data to a view. It is the base adapter, that is the abstract base class for the adapter interface to simplify implementing of the adapters, right? So whenever we have to make use of custom things, what we'll be doing is we'll be customizing the adapter for us. While customizing the adapter, we have to override the getView method in order to inflate, populate, and return a custom view for the given index in the array. For example, what is the custom view at any point of index in the array? There we have to use that out. Let me show you an example here. All right, let's go here. Let's talk about custom grid view here. So here I have created two activities. One is the main activity that is holding the grid view, and then I have created an image helper that is going to extend the base adapter and give me all the implementation needed for the custom grid view, right? So I go here inside my main activity. What I have in my main activity is just a single grid view. You can see that in my main activity I'm having a single grid view, right? Any person having any doubts here? Right, let's move up. In the main activity, I take the reference of the grid view. Then what I'm doing is I'm creating an image helper, right? I'm creating an image helper class. Let me show you what this class contains here. First of all, a few things. An array of integer images. Can everybody check this up? An array of drawables. Can I have responses back onto the chat window if everybody can see this up? I have an integer array of all the drawables, first array. Then I have an integer or say string array of all the names. And context object which I'll be getting whenever I'll be passing on the image helper class. So if you see, when I'm creating a new object of the image helper class, I'm passing in a context to it. That's correct, Akshay. It's like segregation of code. You can always define the base adapter inline also, but since I'm doing segregation, so I have created multiple classes for it. I go on to the image helper class. Context is being passed on whenever I'm going to create the object. Whenever I extend the base adapter, I have access to overridden methods of the following, like image, the get count, get item ID, and most important of all, the get view method. Alright, so I go into the get view method. If you see, what am I doing? I'm creating a linear layout dynamically. Alright, what I'll do here is I'll just let you all take a look at this code, because I assume that after my clarification it is getting a little messier for everyone. So I'll let you all look into this piece of code and tell me what exactly you all can make out. So that way I think I can make you understand it in a better manner. I hope this exercise is good for everyone. Just read these lines of code and tell me if there is anything that you are not able to understand. And let me tell you, if you won't be asking me any questions, I'll be asking you a few questions. Ajay, Akshay, Ankit, Rojan, Srinivas. I hope this approach works fine with everyone. Just let me know onto the chat window really quick. Read this up. Any doubts, ask me up. Because I assume that because I'm already knowing it up, so people are finding it a little complex to understand. Srinivas, I hope this is good for this is a good thing, a good practice that we should do here. All right. Ajay, Akshay, Ankit, Rojan, Srinivas. Everybody just look into the code, and if there is any sort of problems, you can respond back on the chat window. Alright, Ankit has asked me what is this set gravity do here. Ajay has asked me about line 50-51. So what I'm doing here is, Ajay, I'm actually giving it the position of from the string names. Alright, I'm just giving it a position. So suppose I'm having position 1 running, I'm picking up the string value from position 1 and giving it to a text view. And if I talk about gravity, gravity is something which I'm actually placing it center on the horizontal window. A linear layout is the one that takes up the complete screen space. I say put it inside the center of the linear layout. That is what gravity is doing, Ankit, here. Is it possible to do the same with the XML? That's correct, Srinivas. The reason why I have done 2 examples is, list view I'll be picking up from the XML, and the grid view I have done it from the dynamic layout, so that both the examples can be covered up. Alright, so I'll be covering the next example wherein I'll be picking it up from the XML. Any person having any doubts, any questions in this example code? Sure, I'll run it for you. Here you have the example running. I think I have missed an image for the lady here. Let me find out. Right. Seems to be not coming up here. Just do a run again. Right, it seems some problem here with the image here. Right, so if I click on 1, it shows you you clicked on 1. If I click on 2, it clicks 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, and so on and so forth. Alright, so image is the one that is being picked up from the image ARR. Then I have the apple, so the text, I would say, is being picked up from the string ARR, and that is how it is working up. Alright, so that is how it's being taken care of. Now I hope this is clear to everyone. Now what I do here is, in this particular example, after setting up the adapter to the grid view, I'm just raising a toast on the on item click list. Ankit, just let me know if this is clear to you. Anything that is not clear, let me know onto the chat window. Anyone who wants me to run this again, anything that you want to see again, you all can respond back onto the chat window. Srinivas, any doubts? Ajay, any doubts? Akshay, Rojan, having any doubts here? How to put a background image to what? The complete grid view? Akshay, let me know. The complete grid view? In order to do that, just go on to the main activity, go on to the grid view here, give it a property which says background, give it a drawable. That is all that is needed here. If you can see here, right, I'll show it to you by running this up as well. Here you go. Can you see this up? I have a similar question. How do I change background for all the activities? In order to do that, Srinivas, just let me know, are you doing it at runtime or are you picking it up from an XML? If you're picking it up from an XML, Srinivas, what you need to do is, whichever is the parent of your XML file, right? For example, if I go here, if I say I have the linear layout as the parent here, right? Right, I have the linear layout as the parent. I just say background and give it a drawable, or say a color, whichever you feel like. I hope the audio is available to everyone. Akshay could not hear me up. I hope this is clear to you now, Srinivas. How are you going to do that? Just let me know over the chat window if this is clear, Srinivas. Now my question was, I have main2.xml, I have main3.xml. In that case, you have to provide, since you are picking it up from an XML, the UI is being picked up from an XML, Srinivas. So what you need to do is, you need to have the same sort of line included in every XML. Alright, that is how you have to do this up. Other than that, what you can also do is, you can create, say, suppose, but that is again something which is very different. But if you want to have like a single layout that gets used in every activity, for example, you have a scenario wherein you have a single layout that gets used in the every activity, then you can use a merge attribute of the XML file. Alright, so whenever you create a new XML file, you can use a merge property of the XML file and include that inside your XML file. So we have talked about the grid view now, alright, how we'll be customizing the grid view. Let's talk about, that's correct, I'll show you. If you see here, so I can create a linear layout like this, and then I can have a merge attribute added up. If you want, I can share an example code for that. Alright, Srinivas. Now let's talk about how we'll be customizing a list view. Alright. So we have talked about customizing a grid view. Now let's talk about customizing a list view. So here I have the main activity. My main activity extends the activity. Now if you see, I have created a list view inside my activity main. Right? I go on here. I have created a custom adapter here. Can everybody see this up? Again, I'll follow the same practice. And let me tell you, this is a little complex. This is a little complex because I have done something which is very resource optimizing here. So I'll let you all take a look and ask me questions. Here you have the custom based adapter. Alright, just let me know whenever you are done till this point of time. Till this convert view equal to null. Let me know whenever you are done reading with this convert view equal to null. So you have access to the file here. Everybody just give it a reading and let me know if there is anything that you are not able to understand. All right, very good. Srinivas says, what is layout inflator? Srinivas, you remember we were talking about pulling up the XML in order to use the views? You remember that? So this layout inflator of mine is actually making use of the layout. If you see here, I have created a layout helper list view. Can you see this up? It is actually a layout file that I have placed in my XML, right? Single list item that I have, right? I go on to the main activity. I'm calling up a layout inflator in order to give me the inflated file out of the XML. So that is what the layout inflator does. It inflates a layout in order for me to use it in my application. All right, I'll just go up a little here so that if anybody has missed here. All right. I'll repeat it for you again. Ajay, what I'm doing here is I'm using a helper list view.xml file. This XML file is the one that is using, or say having, the construction of how the elements should look like inside my list view. Every single list item, all right, is being rendered with this particular list view.xml file. What my layout inflator is doing here is it is inflating or giving me this file for me to use inside my application, or say inside my adapter. It is going to inflate, or say do an inflation of this layout and give it to me for my usage. I hope this is clear to everyone. All items follow help. That's correct. How do I link layout inflator with the XML? If you see here, Srinivas, let's talk about it like this. Presently, inside the get view, I'm not having any XML. Do I have any XML here? Inside my get view. Quick question for Srinivas. I need a quick response. All right. I do not have any XML here. All right. So what I need to do is I need to make references to the text views, the image views, all right, or the checkboxes from this file. Correct? I need to have these objects in order to use in my application. So what am I doing is I say give me the layout after converting this, or say give me the layout after inflation. Here I say give me the image view, give me the text view medium, give me the text view small, give me the holder checkbox. So that is what is being done here. I'm creating a new holder class which is holding these elements for me. All right, let's move up here and let me all again. Same practice. So we have reached till convert view, right? Here I'll be, just let me know whenever I have to scroll down, or let me know in case of any queries. All right, you have access to this particular file now. Let me know whenever I have to scroll down. Alright, Akshay says holder. Let me show you what this holder class is having. It is actually having some static image views, the text view smalls and the checkboxes. Just because if you see here, Akshay, I'm making use of holder.imageview in order to hold the elements from the XML. I hope you understand this now. Should I scroll down? Alright, Srinivas says yes. Rojan, Ankit, Akshay, Ajay. Should I scroll down further? Let's scroll down now. How to do I get an idea for helper.xml file? What is that? Can you just come again with the question here? How do I get idea for helper.xml file to be used? It's just a file that you have created. It is just a mere file that you have created, Ajay, in order to make use of all the parameters. It is like that you design something, alright? Similar kind of design you have done here. Should I move down? Alright, let's move down. I think these are all the on-check change listeners, the click listeners. I do not think that they are needed. Here I have. So any questions from anyone? Let me tell you, I have got a very good question for everyone coming up here. That's correct. Ajay says, what is convertView.setTag? Alright, Ajay, question. If I say from 138, that's correct. Alright, Ajay says he got it. Ajay, just let me know about it. What exactly do you think about this? Alright, so I'm having a complete list view. Alright, I have got 4 items that are visible on the screen in the list view. Alright, however, I have 8 items that I have in my list view. No, that's not correct. That's not correct, Srinivas. That's not correct. I'm telling you about this. In all, what I have is I have 8 elements inside my list view. Alright, so when I scroll down to find the other 4, just let me know what is a better approach. Say I am having another 8, another 4 that comes up after I scroll down, right? Now, should I be making reuse of this view and just swap the values on the views that are visible to me? Just let me know. or should I be having 8 different layouts, and all the 8 different layouts should have the data associated with them, which is a better approach in order to save some memory. Rojan says single view first, but it's complex. It's not complex at all. I'll tell you how I have achieved this. I'll tell you how I have achieved this up. Do not worry on the complexity part. I think I'll take care of it. If you see here, what am I doing? What am I checking here? The very first time a view gets created, what will my convert view will be? Everyone, very first time the view gets created. That's correct. All right, Rojan says correctly. That's correct, Akshay. All right, everybody says it correctly. So first time it is going to be new. It's going to be a null object, right? Now I came here and what I did was I had created 4 views that were in my view, that were visible to me, right? I created 4 views that were visible to me. Now I scroll up. So will my convert view will be equal to null this time or not? Just let me know. It won't be null. So what I'm doing is, if it is equal to null, I'm creating a new convert view and I'm giving it a tag. If you see here, I'm giving it a tag of the holder. What is my holder containing? All the image views, the text views that I have picked up from the XML. I check if my convert view equal null, create a new holder class. If it is not equal to null, just use the last holder class. Got my point? Anyone having any doubts? Srinivas, Rojan, Ankit, Akshay, Ajay, having any doubts in understanding what is being done here with the convert view? Finally, using the holder object in order to set all the properties. Rojan, haven't received any response from you. Is this understood? Any doubts? Any questions? All right. Should I assume that this is clear to everyone? In the activity main, what am I doing? Just having the on-click listener working for the list view. If you see this by running up, let me show you this. Show this to you by running it up. You can see that if I'll be clicking on every image, I have associated an image view click listener with it. If I click on any text, it will give me the text view clicked. If I change on the checkbox, it gives me the checkbox change listener. Right? Any person having any doubts here? Any questions? Any queries? So should I assume that this is, what about in scrolling you were talking about? As I said, Ajay, it's like if I have number of elements, they'll be using the same UI, same layout and not create another one. That is what I was telling you about. Oh, so we can change the image of the checkbox also. That's correct. That's correct, Akshay. We can change the image of the checkbox also. Akshay. I hope this is clear to everyone. This is a normal coding practice that we follow. Whenever we work with list view, we always make sure that we make use of the convert view in order to save some memory. Any person having any doubts, any questions, any queries here? Can I have some responses back onto the chat window? Only Rojan has said that is clear to him. Can everybody also respond back? Great, Srinivas. I hope that once you go through the code, you'll understand it in a more better manner. Whatever I have taught is something which is going to be more meaningful then. Alright, so this is why we have chosen this particular thing, because now since you people will be working on the projects, so this is how you can think about some fancy UI elements when you will be working on your projects. Alright, so any questions, any queries from anyone in what has been taught today? Anything that you want to know from the project part, anything that you feel like asking me? I'm here for another few minutes for everybody to respond back to the questions that you people have. That's correct, Srinivas. We'll be covering the SQLite database. Alright, we'll be covering that up in the coming class. You want me to go through the layout inflator again, Akshay? So if you see, Akshay, I was telling you about the layout inflator. What it actually does is, I do not have any XML file in order to get the views from. Like, for example, if I have a text view, I have an image view, I have a checkbox inside a layout file. Alright, so that particular thing is provided to me by the layout inflator. Alright, so it's like it gives me the XML that I can make use of in order to find all the views that I have inside my XML. If you see here, I'm actually referencing to this XML file with the help of a layout inflator. Right, so that is how the layout inflator works. Still, if you have any doubts, you can again respond back onto the chat window. Alright, Srinivas is asking me, that's correct, it provides the XML elements. Alright, can you please show us where listview.helper class is placed? If you see here, Srinivas, nothing fancy in the resources. If you remember, resources, layout, and here is the list view helper. I hope it is clear to you, Srinivas. Any queries, any questions? Can I have some responses back onto the chat window? Srinivas, I hope this is clear now. Ankit, there is a very marginal fee. There is a very marginal fee of having an account on Google Play. Just $25. If you want, I can upload your application. Alright? Not a problem. But still, since the fee amount is very meager, I think you can buy it. If you don't want to buy it, I'll do it for you. No, do not worry on that part. No, it's not added, Srinivas. That's the feature. If you see, it's not added up into activity main.xml. It is being inflated. The reason it is being inflated is because it is not a part of the XML file. I hope now you understand what exactly the inflation does. There are many. Ajay, you can upload as many number of applications as you feel like. All right. There's no limit to the number of applications that you upload onto the Google Play. That's correct. It will show you as a new version of the application. Akshay, you can update your app again onto the Google Play. Not a problem. Go ahead, Srinivas. I think you were somewhere in the middle of a question here. I think, Ajay, for that you have to consult a friend of yours who does photoshopping, right? Then only you will be able to actually find out how you will be creating an icon for your application. Do consult a friend of yours who is good with UI designing. Ankit, it is not for an year. It is for around 25 years. 25 years in itself is a lifetime. I'll also show you how the complete process has to go. Alright. In the coming class, I'll also show you how you'll be uploading your applications onto the Google Play. Rojan doesn't seem to be interested in hosting his applications onto the Google Play. Is that so, Rojan? No questions coming from your side. All right. That's correct, Ajay. You have to make a text file and place it into the assets folder. And then copy it from the assets folder to the application folder. I'll give you that code snippet. If you want, I can just mail you that code snippet in order to copy the file. Ajay, in order to use the view flipper, I think you can do some research by yourself. If you face any problems, I'm always there to help you up onto the emails. All right? Just do some stuff by yourself. Facing any problems, I'm always there to help you up. Sure, Ajay, I'll mail you the code. Just give me an email, alright, asking for the code, and I'll respond back to your email. Actually, you all are supposed to submit the project by the end of 6th week. Ajay, actually, I cannot copy it from here, from the GoToWebinar, alright? So that's why I asked you to drop me an email asking for the code. 6th May would be too long. It would be too long. Akshay. It's going to be too long. 6th of May will be too long. What I'm expecting it by is 28th of July. Alright. So it's like another 10 days that I have to look into. No, I didn't say 6th of May. I said that we are running a week late, right? So a week late will be going on to finish on 4th of May. Akshay, it's not going to finish on 6th of May. So even if we are a week late, I can just compensate, like I can just give you an extension of a week. So that if that all goes fine, then only we have 4th of May. Why are are you thinking about else part? Akshay, I think 4th of May is a good timeline for you to finish the project. Do not go into the else part. I think we only support the if condition here, not the else one. Alright, no problems. I assume, I understand. 4th of May is a good decent time. When are you supposed to be late here, Ajay? Can you just let me know about it? Are you talking about the Skype session that we have to take? Alright, about the project, I think we can talk about it offline. I think we can talk about it offline, right? Akshay, I just the reason why I asked you to for a Skype session last week was just this, because it's actually I'm not able to understand what exactly the problem is, right? So that's why I asked you to come on Skype straight after the class. But I just pinged you up, but you didn't respond back. I think Rojan had a query, but Rojan's query got resolved, but you were not just answering my ping here, so that's why that query had got unresolved. No problems, Akshay. If you have some time today, I think we can take care of it in the late evening. I think after 8, if that is fine with you. All right. I think we can take it after 8 today. All right. Akshay, just drop me an email whichever time you feel like comfortable discussing about the problem, and I think we can come together at the same time and discuss about it. I have to actually leave after the class straight away. So that's what my point is. If you want, I can be available at around 4, if that is fine with you. At around 4:30. Just let me know on the chat window. If that is fine, I think we can have the session at around 4:30. Can you just respond back very quickly, Akshay, so that we can just fix up some time for us and we can just get resolve these queries as soon as possible. All right, then we'll meet at 4 on Skype. All right. All right. Any other questions? Any other queries from anyone? You all can respond back on the chat window. If everything looks good here, I think we are all on a good path and we are all moving forward to the project completion. All right. Just let me know. Are we all good here? Can I have responses from everyone? Are we all good till this point of time? Any person having any problems, any questions, any queries? I'm always there for you. Do not worry, even after our batch gets over. All right, I'll always be there for you. Ankit, I haven't had any response from you. I hope everything is good at your end also. All right then. This is all that I have for all of you in today's class. I hope to see you all in the class in the coming week, and I also hope to see everybody submitting the UI submissions to me by the end of the coming week. Just remember, we just have an extension of a week, nothing more than that. All right. I hope to see everybody's UI submissions in my inbox very soon. Just remember, You all have to fill up the feedback form after the class, all right? Otherwise, the sales team will come after me and just create problems for me. Just remember, everybody, please fill up the feedback form that comes up after the class. All right, this is all that I have for all of you. Have a very good day. Bye-bye. Take care.
The organizer